Hello, and welcome to the We Are Power podcast. If this is your first time here, the We Are Power podcast is the podcast for you, your career, and your life. We release an episode every single Monday with listeners in over 60 countries worldwide, where you'll hear personal life stories, top-notch industry advice, and key leadership insight from amazing role models. As We Are Power is the umbrella brand to Northern Power Women Awards, which celebrates hundreds of female role models and advocates every year. This is where you can hear stories from all of our awards alumni and stay up to date with everything MPW Awards and We Are Power. Hello, and welcome to the We Are Power podcast. Every week I'm joined by the most amazing guests. This week I have the Royal London Massive in the podcast studio. Emma and Gail, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much.
Now, tell us about your role. What do you do?
Oh, well, I feel like I'm jack of all trades, master of none in my role. So my official role title is Director of Operational Excellence. But what that really means is that I lead teams that support all of the other great teams at Royal London in customer services to enable them to be brilliant for customers. And I also have the pleasure of being the sponsor of our Diversity and Inclusion Plan, which is how we made the connection with you, lovely people.
And we are very grateful. I'm really delighted that you've come on board as one of our fantastic partners. We are Power Massive. Welcome. Tell us about you.
Hi, I'm Emma Griffin. My job title is I'm Group Chief Security Officer. So my job is to protect Royal London's systems, people and customer data.
Now, it's safe to say that neither of you started in this path, because I always think is, how do you describe, nobody ever has, do they, one straight linear path. You don't go to school or go into further or higher education or wherever you go, apprenticeship, and then suddenly go, I'm going to go to be a Royal London person. You didn't start there, did you? Neither of you started there. Gail,
no.
Did you start behind a bar?
Well, a bar and in
in front of a bar and behind a bar.
In front of the bar, behind the bar, kitchens, yeah. So I did a lot of barmaiding, waitressing, and Emma and I's path is really, really different because I've actually been at Royal London for 27 years, my entire professional working career. And I joined, it was Scottish Life at the time, which was a mutual in Edinburgh. And I joined it simply because I'd left university with a business degree, hadn't quite figured out what I wanted to do yet, and decided I should probably get a bit more than barmaiding and waitressing experience. So I joined Scottish Life. And I loved it, and I have never left because I still love it.
And you still don't know what you want to do now.
Yeah. Other than be great for our customers, because that's genuinely what I love about my job.
And tell us what Royal London is.
Yeah, so Royal London provides pensions and savings investments and also protection for customers. So protection's when you need to have some sort of investment for life shocks, so like life insurance or critical illness cover. And all of us are going to need a pension in the future. So we provide that. And then the customer service area that I work in, we serve those customers and look after their plans for them.
And what do you love most about your job, having been there 27 years?
So I love the difference that we can make, because there is if I think about something like protection, right, there's a real emotional driver to that product. And pensions are quite different. You have pension because when you stop working, you're going to need an income in the future. Protection, you take it out for something that's potentially going to go horribly wrong, and you don't really want to have to use your protection plan. You want to have to use your pension plan. You don't really want to have to use your protection plan because it means something bad's happened. You've had quite a life shock. So I think we have real social impact, and that's what I love about it.
And I think that's always challenging, isn't it? Careers information is always challenging as you're growing up, and as our kids and extended families are growing up. It's hard to signpost where to go because how would you know what that did? And you actually had an interesting path, didn't you, Emma? Because one, you're not 27 years in, you're less than a year in, aren't you, to Royal London? But you started, part of your sort of life adventure or career adventure was in the ambulance service.
Yes, so
how? Join the dots, please.
I also didn't know what I wanted to be when I was a grown-up. So I was supposed to go to university and do one of many sort of engineering and sort of science-related courses. I chickened out 2 weeks before I was supposed to go because I didn't really know what to do, and ended up by accident at London Ambulance Service worked my way up there and became an ambulance controller. So I was responsible for deciding which ambulances went where for North West London, with Heathrow and Wembley Stadium.
Oh, not busy then.
Things. So yeah, it was generally quite busy, but it's where I sort of learnt sort of crisis and incident management and how to do that. From there, got into IT, and then I've spent sort of like nearly 30 years in a variety of different IT roles, sort of moving around. Started off in infrastructure and then turned to the dark side of security and not looked back.
But that's what I think is quite interesting about us, right? So we're totally different backgrounds and we started off in something totally different. But if you just think about that, the things that Emma learned right in the start of that are so valuable in the role that she does now in terms of incident management. And barmaiding and waitressing,
incident management,
proper customer service skills there, right there.
It's all transferable skills,
it's all
isn't it?
transferable stuff that's then kind of stood the test of time for us in our career. I think that's really important.
And there'll be people listening or watching, and thinking, oh, I'm at that point where I've done this, but I need to go there, but I don't know how to go there. What was that direction for both of you? How did you go from hospitality, which is an amazing industry? I think it's an amazing place. 98% of us work in hospitality at some point in our careers, and in emergency services. What was the moment that went?
Is there something for you?
For me, my appendix burst at work one day, and I was rushed to hospital and. I had my appendix out and was sent home and was told, okay, you've got to rest up for a month, and I'm not very good at sitting still and doing nothing. And I kept getting up and trying to do housework. So my partner, now husband, worked in tech. So he'd set me a few challenges. So he took a computer apart and put it in a tea tray and said, don't get out of bed, treat it as a jigsaw puzzle and see if you can put it back together. So I built the computer, and then the next day he said, oh, there's some floppy disks, see if you can work out how that works. And so I started doing bits and bobs, just picking up books from his bookshelf. And when my sick leave had finished, he said, you're actually really good at this. I think you should give it a go. And so I bravely went back to work and resigned and thought, I'm going to start a career in technology very naively and terrified. And then...
Powered by a makeshift jigsaw and appendicitis.
Yeah.
Wow.
I should have gone first. Mine's is nowhere near as exciting as that, Simone, honestly. That's amazing. Mine was completely different and probably quite traditional in that at the point when I left university all those years ago,
surely
my age, Edinburgh was the hub of financial services. So there's a place called St Andrews Square, and that's where all the head offices were. So your careers were quite often banking or financial services. So I applied to a few, and actually I joined Scottish Life because of the feel I got. I got offered for another company on the same day, but Scottish Life was quite small, and it felt like I had a family feel to it, and that's actually what attracted me to it.
And that's really important. You said probably, and as you say, it wasn't very many years ago, but you talk about the family feel. Is that what we now refer to as like the culture? We talk about, should we live by our gut like that sometimes?
Absolutely. And I think, those who are listening, I wouldn't stress about the fact that you don't know what you want to do, because neither of us knew what we wanted to do, and yet we've had very different but great careers and rewarding careers, and you can make those things work whether you've got a family or not, and in different cultures and different organisations. I think you should kind of embrace it and remind yourself it's kind of okay, and you'll figure it out on the way.
100%. I couldn't agree more. And it's been very much a part of some of your role, been very male dominated. And as a leader in this financial services sector, what's been your approach? What's been the Gail approach to leadership?
Yeah, so I'm quite hands-on. I'm a very much a people person. So I love being around people, which is why I'm still in customer services after all this time, because it's such a people-based environment. And an organisation like Royal London, we're a mutual. So what that means is we're owned by our members and our customers rather than shareholders. So that's why there's a sort of real family value-based approach. And it's that value-based approach that's kind of helped me navigate, because in customer services, there are a lot of females. And actually, we have a really good ratio from a diversity perspective, but less so at the senior manager level. And that's what Emma and I were talking about, that people will traditionally view customer services as having quite a lot of females in there, but at a leadership role, it's a lot of males. And for a long time, I've been the only female on the leadership team. And how I've navigated that has actually been around making connections with people. So kind of using that love of people and being really interested in people to make connections and to learn from them and get them to be my allies and my advocates. And actually, I am the leader I am today because of a lot of the men that I've worked with, because they've kind of taught me what to do and what not to do because of me using them as role models.
100%. It's whether that's mentorship, sponsorship, advocacy, or just someone having your back, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And what about yourself? What's been your approach to leadership if you've kind of gone through? Because, like we said, that Gail said here, that the numbers are very low, aren't they, at a senior female level? So what has been your leadership?
In all honesty, it's changed over time. So earlier on in my career, I had this wrong impression that I had to look a certain way, be a certain way, blend in, mimic the many men that were around me in leadership roles, and I try and sort of not stand out as being female and different and little and squeaky. And so I try and emulate that style. And it took me some time to have the confidence to be okay with being different and being okay with having my style and getting excited, getting squeaky and faster as I get excited about something. And then that's okay. It's just me. And so I've changed it to just bring a bit more authentic leadership. And I think that's really important as you go up the stack. And it helps advertise the importance of diversity, is that if we want that diverse workforce, we've got to act it and live it.
Yeah, you've got to be real you, haven't you? There's no point trying to be, it's not a cookie cutter model. And if, you're saying that you've come into this environment because it had that family feel or it had that nice vibe. So surely that enables you to be you, right? Doesn't it?
Exactly. And I think that's what's quite special about Royal London. And everybody that joins Royal London, that's one of the first things they'll say when I ask them, how are you finding it, in their first week or their first month. And as senior leaders, we host the induction programs as well. So we'll host them there every 3 months. And even for the people who've then been there 3 months, it's the first thing they always talk about is people feel that they can be themselves at Royal London and that you're encouraged to. It is very much quite an inclusive workplace naturally.
And how did you ensure that there must have been parts of this 27-year career adventure that, how did you make sure your voice was heard and your real you was there at the table?
Yeah, so my number one value as an individual is authenticity. So I have to be myself. So actually I was quite different to Emma, that I was a bit more naturally outspoken, not in a sort of confrontational way, but just I find it hard not to kind of challenge something or share my view if it's something I feel quite strongly about. And I did have to make sure I really focused on that in the leadership meetings where I was the only sort of female voice, because I did have a very different view. And it is kind of scary at first when you do it, but I still remember the time when I really challenged my boss at the time on something that he was doing, and his response when I challenged was quite personal back to me. Not about me, it was actually about my previous boss who had actually been a female. And he made this comment about, well, ding dong, the witch is dead, I'm here now. And I just remember thinking, I need to actually show that that's not okay. So even though there's no other females in the room, that's not the value we have here at Royal London. It's an inclusive space. And he meant nothing by it in that way. It was one of those throwaway statements in the moment. And so I just challenged him on it. And there was two things for me. It was one, that's kind of not okay to use a term like, witch. And the other big thing for me was, well, did you ever stop to think that the reason I'm challenging you is because that's what I think is the right thing to do, not because of we were all yes people to our previous manager. So I felt it was undervaluing my opinion, and so felt the need to speak out.
100%. And there'll be people listening out there and watching out there have gone, you know what, I've had that situation today and I should have called it out, or want to call it out. What advice would you give to that young woman or young guy who's going, oh, it's not cool?
Yeah, I think it's take the deep breath. And I think Emma's point about be your authentic self is really important. So if you're not comfortable calling it out in a public forum when other people are away, find a way to do it that's suitable for you. So maybe ask to have a chat with them afterwards. Because I've done that as well. Not because I've not felt comfortable, but because I knew how they might feel if I was to do that in front of other people. So I think it's kind of adapt and read your audience, but also do something that works. What's been
the toughest thing for you as you've navigated these different careers and sectors and shifting those different roles? Because we talked, haven't we, is that both your experiences have been totally transferable. But what have you learned about the shift or the pivot, as we say? Yeah. Do we still say pivot? No.
For me, it's self-confidence. At each of these times, I've had to make sometimes some big, scary steps, and I'm naturally someone who doubts myself. It's always that bit of imposter syndrome. Might seem confident to other people, but inside, not necessarily so much. So it's having that confidence to do that, and being okay that sometimes you have to be uncomfortable and that you have to take a leap, and it might be a big step, but that's okay. You'll get there, and you generally do. So yes, I think having that self-confidence, and then knowing when to ask for help, and as I say, again, that's okay. It's not weakness, and getting help and advice is really important.
And I think that help, advice, guidance, mentorship, sponsorship, advocacy, whatever we want to call it, who are those people for both of you that have either helped, guided, directed you along your way?
For me, a real mixture. As I say, my husband got me into technology and gave me the confidence and the oomph to go and do it and make that leap. And then through that, a variety of some great managers, both men and women, who've given me the confidence to take the opportunity, take the change, step sideways, step backwards, take a leap forward, and offered advice. And I think some of the more pertinent ones was people giving you advice on that authenticity, and it's okay to be you. You don't have to do it like the way the person who was in that role before did it. So it's okay to be squeaky and little, and that, and I'm not like your average security officer, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But what does average look like, right?
Exactly.
Who says what it should look like?
Exactly.
And you were absolutely not average, right?
No. So mine is so I've got a whole range. Actually, I'm lucky to have a whole range. One of them is the individual I talked about, where I had to challenge. I would say, in the end, and actually quite quickly after that, he became one of my biggest allies. Really championed me, kind of really pushed me. The thing is, I learned most about him was how to influence and gain support from others at a very senior level, and in particular the power of using data to do that. I was because I'd been in the organisation a long time, I was trying to influence, almost trading on my reputation at Royal London and my track record, rather than actually using facts. And that worked well for the other people who'd also been there a long time, but wouldn't really work for a lot of others. So I really learned a lot of good disciplines and that kind of stuff, and also about really empowering people to really solve problems and come up with solutions. So he was definitely actually one of them. And, I've had countless others, and they've definitely been the ones who've, like you, it's the exact same as Emma, actually, the people that have kind of taught me to believe in myself. Yeah. Because we all have self-confidence issues, right? We all have the imposter syndrome, and they've kind of pushed you and stretched you and challenged you and made it safe for you to do that.
And sometimes it's about unlocking you, that authentic. Yeah. It's not like it's making you someone you're not. That's you inside. And the great thing around working for an organisation like Royal London is you have different campaigns and different, sort of real things that you can champion. And I know ED&I, which is really being challenged in the world right now, let's face it. But there's something really important that, and I know this means a lot to you being the sponsor, doesn't it, of this. And what are you most proud of what you're doing? Because you've got so many different campaigns around tech, Menopals. I love that name.
Yeah,
I need a Menopal, not going to lie. But you've got the group, but then you've got places for everyone. I think that's really important when it comes to groups.
We do. So I'd talk about it at a couple of levels. I'm proud on Royal London's behalf of the networks that we've built up, and the great job that those people do that run the networks. They do this on top of their job to really make it an inclusive space, and really to help educate people on some of the challenges that a lot of people will think to themselves, well, those things don't exist today. Gender equality is not an issue anymore. But actually, there's so much that they do from an awareness thing, and bringing people together and connecting on that. So really proud of all that stuff. Locally, in terms of the function that Emma and I work in, and the plan that I sponsor, because we've got about 2,500 of the employees at Royal London Group, so more than half. And it's so broad, our function. We've got tech and security, we've got change, and they have their own different challenges around gender attraction. And then you've got customer service and operations, workplace, procurement, and digital. And the bit that I love about our plan is we kept it simple. There was a lot in it. And I'm really proud of the focus that the team have had on attracting talent, as well as retaining and upskilling. So one of our big challenges has actually been about attracting talent and getting the right pool. And you should always put the right person for the role in. You shouldn't let your targets around D&I drive who gets the role. But actually, if you're struggling to get a diverse pool, then you're always going to have a challenge and then not have a diverse team. And so that's where a lot of our focus has been on. So the stuff that we've been doing in terms of like women in tech events, running STEM sessions that the team have all done, the connections we've started to build up with yourselves are the things I'm really proud of, and the stuff that I see that we can leverage that then has a snowball effect on other stuff, because it doesn't just help attract talent. If you take people like Shika that kind of connected us with you, then she was presenting at one of your events recently. That's a great, opportunity for her in terms of her own career growth and personal development.
Everyone can, I think that's one of our big passions, is giving people a platform, a stage, and that's what we're really excited about, the partnership and where it can go. And just sometimes be careful what you wish for, because these partnerships start and then it becomes, we are that independent organisation. How does this sort of further your wider ambitions around ED&I, sort of the partnership with ourselves and I know you've got big, bold ambitions around that attraction piece as well?
So I think it furthers our ambition in terms of this. It's building up this connected community, I think, because I think when you've got lots of people that are connecting on topics that they all feel passionate about, then I think that the power and the impact can be so much greater. And one of the things that I think we always need to be mindful of is constant learning. Things change. The world is continually changing. So having those connections means that we can be sharing, but also learning best practice and really leveraging that. So I think it really helps us in terms of the ambition, because it gives us a broader reach than if we were just looking locally, and hopefully means we can have a broader impact with Royal London.
100%, and is amplifying those conversations. A couple of fun facts before we leave you. Emma, of course, as well as putting together sort of jigsaw pieces during your appendix that were not jigsaw pieces, but you're a black belt, right? What has that taught you most about yourself in leadership and resilience terms?
I think it's that I think you used the right word. Resilience is that it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down; it's how many times you get up that's important.
I feel a song in that.
So every time you get challenged, pick yourself up, carry on, and be humble and be respectful, and train hard, work hard. Whatever you do throughout my career has been about, you've got to be tenacious, you've got to push, you've got to work hard, and then you get the reward. And so, it's kind of one of those transferable skills things.
And Gail, a chef on the side.
Oh, I love a bit of cooking.
What is your most favourite? Well, don't we all, right? What's your dish of choice for you and your daughter? Because you like cooking together, don't you?
So my daughter's 7, and she's definitely got a bit of a passion for making pizza with me from scratch. So she likes to make the dough, and we've kind of gone from me doing quite a lot of it to now, I'm literally there in a supervisory capacity to make sure she doesn't fall off the step. So pizza would be the dish of choice.
And final question, what are your superpowers? That's a tough, isn't it? Just to throw in at the end.
That is. I don't think I've ever thought of myself having a superpower.
Everyone's got a superpower.
I think I'm calm under pressure. I think there's not a lot that rattles me. So people quite often say, a bit swan-like. Feet might be going really crazy at the bottom, but it doesn't show when it needs.
Yeah, I think mine might be positivity.
Yeah, it radiates off you.
Yeah, I need to watch it's not annoyingly positive.
No, it's lovely.
But yeah, mine would be positivity, and that it's that always finding the silver lining and helping others too as well. Maybe.
Look at that. Between you, what a dream team. You've got the crisis management, you've got the service approach, and you've got the swan pedaling like crazy. We are so excited to be working with you at Royal London. Emma and Gail, I'm so glad that you've joined us on the podcast today. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to our adventures together.
As do we. Thank you, Simone.
Subscribe on YouTube, Apple, Amazon Music, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a review or follow us on socials. We are power_net on Insta, TikTok and Twitter. Or We Are Power on LinkedIn, Facebook. And We Are _power on YouTube.